Hi there, this is Jacob Nash. In this video, we'll be reviewing polynomials. So pretty much this should be reviewed, but there might be some things in here that uh, you might have not learned, like the specific definition of what a polynomial is. So it's important to note that there's single variable and multivariable calculus, and only what we're doing right now is single variable. Meaning that we don't have like a y or a z. If it is a polynomial, then the domain has to be all real numbers, and these things cannot be in the polynomial. No division. Now, there's slight exception to that, but basically no division, meaning that you can't have x and an x in the denominator. But if you recall, there is one exception. If it's 1 over x squared plus 1, then that's a whole nother thing. But for the most part, you shouldn't see that. No square roots either. And when we're saying these things, we're saying these things cannot be done to the x. So you could have a square root of 2 plus x. That's allowed, but not square root of x. No x to a negative exponent. If you want to know why, well, that's actually the same as this, because if you had x to the negative 2, it would be 1 over x squared. That's an exponent rule. If you need to review those, I definitely have a video on that. And then here, you also can't have an exponent that's a fraction, because that actually can mean a square root. So if you had x to the 1/2, that's the same thing as square root over x, because the 2 ends up here, the 1 ends up there. Once again, watch the exponent rules video if you don't remember that. You also can't have cosine of x, sine of x, or e to the x. That's just other things you need to remember. So let's look at 4 examples and determine if they're polynomials. 5 pi, yes. That might seem weird, but that is a little bit weird because, and we're saying f of x equals 5 pi, by the way. That might seem weird because there's no x, but that's completely fine. That will just be a straight line. That means that basically every y value equals 5 pi. So it's just a constant. So that is a polynomial. Square root, we already know, trash can right away. And that might look like x minus 7. Sorry, but it's supposed to be x to negative 7. That's also not allowed. Here, that actually is allowed. You might say, hey, cosine, I said any of these things, if they aren't applied to the x, then it's allowed. So it's not applied to x, it's applied to 8, so it is allowed for that. So pretty simple.